Good morning. Today we are going to start the process of germinating shelling pea seeds. I picked these because they're the easiest to do. You see every part of the growing process, and for kids this is really fun to watch. Here's a hint, it's really fun for adults too. Okay, so let's go over what we need. I cover my kitchen table with cardboard so I have a work surface, and then I also have a cutting surface for other things that I do while I'm in this process. This is just a piece of a 2x4 that was left over from a job site. You're going to need a razor knife, a pair of scissors, a pen, and then other extra things you'll need are labels. Now I have labels left over from a computer printer from years gone by. The printer is obsolete, but I still have all the labels. You can use something like that, or you can just use masking tape or blue construction tape. Anything that you can write information down on and stick it on your container. So I use a lot of different containers, but for big seeds I use these guys. And you can get 6 of these at King Soopers for $2. And you can use them over and over and over and over. So I know it's plastic, I know plastic is a bad word, but not if you use these containers over and over. So I use the clear ones like this right out of the store when I'm just germinating in water. If I think I'm going to grow the seeds after they've germinated, before I transplant them into a different container, I wrap the container with duct tape. This happens to be black. You don't have to use black, you can use white for that matter. Silver, gray, red, whatever. I just had some leftover black. I also wrap the lid. Okay, then the next step for either one of these is that you have to cut holes in the lid. That's why you need the razor knife and the cutting surface. These are already done, but I'll show you the steps I go through to do it. I put it on here and then I slice down. Okay, there's one cut. Then I turn it over and I slice down. That's the other cut. And I do that to both lids, either or, depending on which one I'm going to use. Why do you do that? I'll show you. The next thing you're going to need is paper towels. So I use a combination. I use the blue shop towels from Home Depot because they're a little bit thicker and sturdier. I also buy bamboo paper towels. I like to use those too, but they're expensive and you have to order them from Amazon, and Amazon's not delivering right now in the coronavirus thing. So you make do with what you have. You don't let anything stop you from growing what you want to grow. I take this one square, I fold it in half, fold that in half, fold that in half, and then I cut on all the folds. I'll set that aside. And all of those cuts look like this. Now this is going to be your germination bed. Okay, so this is how you do it. You put the shop towel in that slit there, and you put the shop towel in this slit here. Make sure it's even enough so that both the sides hang down. And then when you're ready to go, you fill the water line up to here. The water soaks into the towel and it comes up onto the surface here, and it keeps the surface of this germination bed wet at all times. So the water here would last 2 weeks, but I would check it every once in a while, because if you've got your heater turned on really high, it's probably going to evaporate a lot quicker and draw more up. And also you see that the towel ends here and here, so you just want to make sure that this is wet, but you don't want to have to look at it every day and go water it. So this is just a way to keep the seed bed wet. Now I'm going to show you, I have already germinated. I forgot to do the video when I was germinating the seeds, and I'm now ready to show you how to transplant and get going. So I'm not going to either slow the video down or show you another batch of seeds because I don't want to waste them. But anyway, you put them here, then I take one of these and I cut it in half, And then what I do, this one would be wet, and then I set this one on it like this, and then it will grab the water that's already on the seed bed and saturate the little tent. Doesn't want to do it because it's dry, but anyway, saturates the tent, and then that way it allows air and humidity on the seeds while they're germinating. So that's a very important step. I'll show you what that looks like with one of my seedlings that we're going to transplant today. I just had some of this left over, so I used it. So you set it up like that. This is actually the little tent I used with this one. Make sure that it's on the seed bed, and then it soaks up the water, and look, it's got airflow, it's got room for it to grow, and it keeps the humidity in there and doesn't let the seed dry out. So that's what that whole process is about. Now there's one other step before you go into planting something like a green bean, a bean, or a pea, or any of the large seeds. I would get this all set up and ready to go, and then you put your seeds in here and you fill it with water and you let the seeds soak overnight. That's the most important step for a big seed. Just use the same container. You don't have to do another container or anything else. Then the next day when you're ready to put it on the germination tray, just take this, drain the water off, pick the seeds out, put it on here, put fresh water in, boom boom, put the little tent on, and you're ready to go. Let Mother Nature take its course. But it's really easy when you got the little tent on it. I'll show you that again. You got this little tent jobby. You can look at each end and see what's going on. Alright, there's one final step before you let it go and go about your business doing other things. You have to label it so you know what you're doing and you know what the seed is. So I'm really cheap. I don't like to waste anything. I don't need one of those big long labels. So I cut the labels in half and then I just use them. And the information that I put on a label is what it is I'm growing, the day I start the germination, and I just abbreviate and say G and then the date. And then when I transplant, I move the label ahead and I put T for the first transplant, and then sometimes I transplant again, and so whenever I transplant I put a new date on it. Now this tells you a couple things. I'll show you here with my peas that I'm going to transplant today. So you can see I've used this label over and over and over. But this particular group of seeds, I started the germination process on April 12th. Today is April 17th, and as you can see, they're definitely ready to go. Okay, so I definitely either need to transplant these or lose them as plants. And we'll get to that in the next video. But that way, the reason that I keep such close track of when I germinate is because when you grow your own food, and especially hydroponically, especially indoors, you don't have to have one harvest a year. You can set up your harvest schedule so that when one plant has already gone through the process and produced its fruit or vegetable, you can have another one waiting, ready to do the same thing. And you can't do that unless you have a track record of, I started germination here, I'm ready to harvest here. And if you always do that, you're going to grow a continuous harvest all year long, and you don't have to only grow during the summer and only harvest during the fall, and then, have either frozen food or run out of the frozen food if you freeze it, or if you dry it, or if you can it, or whatever you do. So this is just a way to have a continuous supply of whatever you're planting all year long. But the first step is to track how long it took you so you can be ready for the next step. And we'll go to the next step in a minute.